Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the webinar, Build a Salesforce Roadmap Out of Manual Process Hell, sponsored by Magnet 360, a Mindtree company. Today, we have speakers Matt Nyquist, Vice President of Digital Health and Coaching at Optum, Jamie Wojciechowski, Strategic Account Director at Magnet 360, and Mike Lingo, Senior Director of Global Strategy Services at Magnet 360. I will do a brief introduction of the speakers before we begin. Matt Nyquist is the Vice President of Digital Health and Coaching at Optum. Optum is a division of United Healthcare, which is number 6 on the 2017 Fortune 500 list. The business unit he leads includes some of the wellness industry's largest programs. Throughout his career, he has transformed struggling businesses into digital-first, consumer-centric business models that drive growth and profitability. Jamie Wojciechowski is a Strategic Account Director at Magnet 360. He is a collaborative business leader with a passion for building technology-enabled business capabilities. His 18 years of experience spans consulting, account management, Fortune 100 retail IT, program management, and marketing. Mike Lingo is the Senior Director of Global Strategy Services at Magnet 360. He brings 25 years of success in information technology, software, and consulting environments. Mike's focus is on delivering value to customers and unlocking the benefits of Salesforce solutions by designing customer interactions and experiences and mapping the value of those experiences to build a roadmap for execution. Once again, thank you for joining us. I would like to note that we have muted the audience to ensure that there is no background noise. However, you will have the opportunity to ask questions to our speakers by entering them into the Q&A panel. Please feel free to send in your questions anytime during the webinar. We will do our best to answer as many of the questions during the Q&A at the end of the presentation. Now, I will turn it over to Jamie Wojciechowski, Account Director at Magnet 360.
Hi, thank you. Thanks to everyone who tuned in today. You have joined because you have a vision for your department, and a slew of manual processes is probably not part of it. You might be wondering how to digitize your business, and it could seem like a daunting task. Where do you start? What do you do? How to get buy-in from stakeholders? So we're excited to have Matt with us today to talk about how he was able to use our strategic offering to build a vision and roadmap for his business. Here's a rundown of what we're going to do on the webinar today. We're going to do a brief intro of Magnet 360 to ground everyone. We're going to talk about who is Optum, the business challenge and vision. Matt will lead that. We're going to talk about our FastForward strategic offering, which was leveraged as a part of this engagement with Optum. And then we're going to finish up with the process, solution, results, and learning. So here we go. Magnet 360 has been a Salesforce partner for over 12 years. We have been able to help customers transform the way they do business by delivering cross-cloud Salesforce solutions. Our consultants, the people who do the great work every day, are cross-trained. That means that they get a great perspective in understanding lots of businesses and industries, including the Salesforce platform. For Salesforce offerings, the clients that we work with may be at different stages of their journey, from standing up their first licenses to expanding to other Salesforce clouds. In any case, Magnet 360 helps our clients innovate on the platform and ensure that they see the successful adoption of the solutions. We're a global organization. Our headquarters with offices in Minneapolis. We have offices in New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, and Munich, Germany. We are backed by our parent company, Mindtree, with significant on- and offshore Salesforce resources to help you get the most of your Salesforce spend. Mindtree also has capabilities beyond the Salesforce platform to help make digital real for their customers. Our organization lives by our values. We say we have a rockin' culture, which helps lead to recognition by our clients and Salesforce and the industry for the great work that we do. We call our mantra engagement for outcomes, and before we do any technology engagement, we want to make sure that we are helping our clients engage with their most important and meaningful audiences. The typical outcomes we focus on are growth, retention, and efficiency. Ultimately, all of these outcomes seek to drive customer value, and that's where we begin and end with every engagement. Our Salesforce offerings are driven by what customers ask from us every day, which is to transform their businesses using one of the most innovative platforms ever created. Our Innovate offerings ensure that clients are getting the most of their investment. You're going to hear more about that in just a moment. But these methodologies ensure that we understand your business challenges, define solutions that leverages the platform and works with your environment. Our Enable offerings are designed for the heavy lifting, the project management, the delivery that needs to happen to make sure that your projects are being implemented appropriately. And our Manage offerings finally ensure that your system is supported appropriately post-implementation while making sure that we can continue to innovate on the platform going forward. My last slide for you as part of our Magnet intro is really the culmination of what you're going to hear in the Optum story, and it's what makes Magnet 360 unique. Our ability to come in and understand an engagement strategy, how we understand and learn a client's business and adapt that to the Salesforce platform. How do we map that to the Salesforce platform and make sure that our solutions are going to meet the needs and business outcomes intended by our clients. And lastly, we drive competitive advantage by providing value quickly. Salesforce is already a platform enabled for speed and configuration. We work in an agile delivery method to make sure that we can move at the speed of business. So any one of these is not necessarily unique, but we think that Magnet 360 and the combination of the things that we do together really differentiates us. And it's the perfect backdrop to bring in Matt Nyquist and talk about the story around digital transformation in his business and leveraging Salesforce and the strategic partnership with Magnet 360. So, Matt, I'm going to bring you in. Thanks for being with us today. And I was hoping that you could start by grounding everyone with learning a little bit more about Optum and the business challenges that you have faced.
Thanks, Jamie. I appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. I think I'll just ground everyone on who Optum is. So Optum is a division of United Healthcare or United Health Group. United Health Group is approaching a $200 billion company. We were a Fortune 6. And Optum is a very fast-growing division of United Healthcare, which provides healthcare services. We're at about a $90 billion business and continuing to grow at a pretty fast clip. So we're looking for ways to innovate and drive the healthcare system to work better for everybody. My business specifically is on the wellness coaching side. So we've traditionally done a really good job with people who need to change their health. We have some amazing coaches. We have about 400 of them across the country who did around 1 million phone calls last year. And if someone has a lifestyle concern or issue that they need help with, they call our coaches and we just give them amazing advice on stress, sleep, exercise, heart health, nutrition, diabetes, smoking cessation, sleep, all those lifestyle issues. Our business had a few challenges, and that's where we started to engage Magnet. Was you can see our experience here. If you look at the member, they would call up a coach, and then the coach would have a lot of information on that individual, and they'd have to go to multiple systems to go grab it. So the market's really changing, and our consumers in other areas of their lives have a lot of digital services, and information is much more readily available and more convenient. So we started to have low enrollment rates. Our engagement rates weren't sustained as much as we wanted. Our processes were inefficient, and we also have a very complex organization. We only had one modality to engage with people. And we had disparate systems. So we were looking to really gain some efficiency in our process, ultimately get clients engaged and give members a better experience. So when they called and talked to our coaches, they had more options and we engaged with them the way they wanted to be engaged with. So we started a process where we brought a vision in on what we thought good would look like. So we wanted a product that was entertaining and inspiring, the consumers would actually buy out there on the open market, and something that isn't necessarily healthcare focused, gives health information, but again in an entertaining way, more similar to products that consumers are out there buying on their own. So, Jamie?
Thanks, Matt. You do a nice job of setting up the case for change, the need to think about process differently, the need to think about technology differently, and how your go-to-market would look in a future state. So I want to bring in Mike Lingo to talk about how we leveraged our Innovate offerings to build the engagement strategy and the strategic roadmap for your team. And then we're going to go deeper into the work that you've actually done. But Mike, let me hand it over to you to talk a little bit more about the Innovate offering and our FastForward.
Sure, thanks, Jamie. So I want to just set the table for a bit about the framework of how we engage in the process that delivers against what we call really a transformational gap. You can see here from this graph that along the x-axis here we have time, the y-axis value, and what this really represents is the value that customers get from the Salesforce platform on their journey over time. And that value is expressed in along the bottom line representing a typical Salesforce journey through a path that really isn't optimized or focused on innovation. The line above that shows represents a blueprinting and a road mapping focused effort that has a transformational vision behind it, which is what this process that we're going through and we're going to talk about in detail delivers. It delivers against the vision of the art of the possible and increases the value and adoption that people get over time when using the Salesforce platform. And the process really plugs this transformational gap I just talked about by moving clients from an adoption to innovation level within the platform in a very prescriptive fashion. We like to look at the wheel that you see here. It's not a linear path that people take in terms of getting value from the Salesforce platform, but a circular one that we establish by looking at the maturity model that people have within the platform, the value they're getting from it, the adoption they have, and assessing that with a scorecard that lets us recommend the people, process, and tools that you can see expressed here in the different ways that we approach it to assess their journey on the Salesforce platform and implement a set of best practices across any cloud, any industry, and any process so that they can leverage that adoption framework and some of the other tools around road mapping and planning and business insights to take advantage of new features, new products within the platform, and understanding how to really manage the value they're getting from Salesforce over time. And then lastly, in talking about the specific process, we look at aligning the transformational case for change by looking at really three elements: the go-to-market strategy, the specific audience journeys that we're targeting to optimize, review, and create a roadmap and a vision around, and lastly, the technology landscape that really underpins all those things. We go through a process that creates ideas from these insights we create and ultimately deliver a roadmap that then enables the value that we talked about to get delivered in execution mode. And ultimately, it means we create executable customer journey stories that map to value in Salesforce.com. Jamie, let's look at how we did that process at Optum now then in more detail.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. This is where it gets fun, and Matt and I will make a little bit of an interactive sequence here talking about the work that we've done with Optum and Magnet. So, Matt, I think it all started with, it might have been maybe a cup of coffee, and then after that was bringing your team over to Magnet 360 and spending a half day with us. We call that the kickoff session, that we like to get you out of the building, get you relaxed and thinking about your business, with us. So tell us how that went for you and what you remember of that day.
Yes, the process for me really started in that I think we had a good idea of what we wanted to do in terms of, we had an idea of what we wanted the end to look like, and we had a hypothesis of how to bring that together. So we had a lot of ideas, but Optum is a very complex organization with a lot of different players, and we needed to get to something that was very tangible in how we'd move that process along. We needed to synthesize all the data and summarize that in a way that was quickly and easily digestible, but yet became deep enough so we could execute. So we spent time talking about how we wanted to go to market, what our customers really wanted, how we planned to market the program, some of the services that we wanted to provide and the way that we wanted to provide them, some of the sales practices, how we wanted to onboard, how we were going to engage with clients. And again, I think we had a vision on that. And in that half day, we really spent the time just sharing how the business worked today and where we thought we wanted to go with it.
Yeah, it was great because it was, you got to set up the room and get alignment with your team in terms of this is where we're going, this is how we're going to get there. And then we really broke down your business and came out with a point of view. And one of the key deliverables out of the FastForward is what we call the art of the possible, which really was a galvanizing piece of deliverable, so to speak, for you to continue to walk through the organization, get people signed up for your vision. So how did you use the art of the possible internally at Optum?
So what this piece really did for us, it allowed us to tell the story I think we had a really big vision that people weren't necessarily able to grasp, and it made it come to life for people in a very simple way. So we were able to tell this story about all the multimodalities, ways that we wanted to engage, all the automation that we wanted to bring to life. And then we were able to take that information and go back to our organization, and we went on a roadshow because we're a matrixed organization, so I own the product, but I have partners that run operations across multiple businesses, that run finance across multiple businesses, that run marketing across multiple businesses. So it wasn't just that I could say, yes, I had to go convince the organization that this was a good investment, and not only was it a good investment, but that we could bring it to life, and the art of the possible deck and information was the kind of the cornerstone of that process that we went through.
For sure, and it was fun being on road shows along with you and your teams of really galvanizing people around a vision. In addition to the art of the possible and the FastForward half-day session that we talked about, the process really spanned about 6 weeks or so of really digging into the business. I'm just going to share a couple of thoughts that I had and invite you to share some of your thoughts as well. It was great to have access to some of your coaches where we sat side by side and got perspective from that end user perspective of what challenges and needs do they have on a day-to-day basis, and roll them up into themes of what your solution would need to cover. What functionality would a system or a new platform need to cover? We met with IT teams and unraveled I'm sure you're not the only organization in the world that has maybe a little bit of a hairball when it comes to systems and integration, so we needed to unwind that a little bit and understand how the data would flow and how systems would come together. It culminated into a couple of things. It culminated into a roadmap and just simply a statement of length of time. How long does this take? What are the enablers? What are the risks? and it gave you a sense of investment of what do you need to go ask your business for from a funding perspective. So any thoughts to share on just kind of the overall FastForward process and other things that we were able to do together?
I think the process, again, as I mentioned, it really allowed me to set the foundation and in a very credible way go build support through the organization. And I would say if I had to highlight something in there, right, solution architecture was so complex for us, and the ability to answer those questions in a deep way, how aren't we breaking other things that we impact, and how do we make our system work not in a way that just has moderate improvements or adds a function, but really changes the consumer experience.
So we've been talking about the process, and we're going to get to some learnings in a little bit overall. But before we do that, I want to get to kind of the solution itself so that the folks on the line can really understand the breadth and depth of what you did for your business to point it towards those business outcomes that you're looking at. So I've got the image up here, kind of the overview. I can chime in as well, but would love to have your perspective and kind of walk the audience through the solution itself.
Yeah, we had two really personas that we were focusing on, actually three when you look at the client persona. But if you look at it from the member experience, we wanted a portal, a place that they could go access information, where they could learn and get materials in a very fun, easy, entertaining way. But we wanted to take the coach and give them access to visibility to what that consumer was doing and make it easy for the coaches to interact, make them know the person, right? If you saw the slide we showed earlier with all the different systems, it was just very complex for a coach to know their consumer. So we used Salesforce as the underlying architecture which brought those systems together, and then so Service Cloud and Marketing Cloud then to trigger the automation and the communication, so we could have that multimodality, phone, text, chat, SMS, all became interchangeable. And there's a lot of automation as to how we're engaging with clients, and then when something rises to the level that the coach needs to be involved, they're involved in a timely way, and then the consumers can go through the digital experience at their own pace.
We've used language in the past around this 360-degree view of the member. So as you have core member data and you have this the interactions that they might be doing, talk to us a little bit about what's the value for you around having centralized member data in one place and the ability to do something with that.
Yeah, I think when coaches know more about consumers, right, having one place to go look for all the information, but not just have it be that we're dumping information, to really contextualize the information. For example, if someone sets a weight loss goal, to put a graph up that quickly allows them to digest how they're doing toward their goal versus their starting point, the coach can engage with that consumer in a more meaningful way. So the simplicity around how we're displaying the data, what data we're displaying to the coach to make those engagements easier has really been impactful for the relationship that we're creating with our consumers.
And one of the things that we've heard from coaches, I believe, is just the ease of use of doing an intake. So if I'm getting on a phone with the coach and I am working on stress, the ability for the coach to quickly ask the questions, like from a health assessment perspective, all of that system gets logged, and then on a subsequent call, the system is calculating triggers and differences to make sure that we're I like your example of this little chart or the graph that's showing progress toward health outcomes. And I think we've heard from coaches some pretty good feedback that they like the ease of use of what we call the console, or that you call the command center, as they kind of navigate around that.
Yeah, I think we'll touch on it a little bit, but we spent a lot of time understanding what the coaches actually do and how much of it provides value versus how much of it is just a task. And we'll hit on it, but the majority of the time that the coaches spent on a call, we were able to automate. so the coaches can actually learn about the consumers faster, and they can spend their time driving behavior change and building relationships and building trust, as opposed to providing documentation or searching for information.
So talk to us about the role of Marketing Cloud, or what engagement looked like previous to the Salesforce implementation, and what it looks like now with Marketing Cloud in place, and what is the vision for how that should play in your solution?
Yeah, Marketing Cloud allows us to set automation. So if someone's supposed to do something on the website and they don't, we can trigger a reminder for them to do it. If they don't do it again, then we can smartly trigger a way for the coach to be able to outreach to them in a timely way. It also centralizes all of our modes of communication. So if a member calls, all the consumer information is there immediately. If someone's chatting with the coach from the website, again, it pulls up all the consumer information, and then it tracks that record and makes it visible in the next call. And where we're going with this is beyond just the journey builder concept, but really leveraging into artificial intelligence, where we start to learn what the best and most appropriate actions would be, and just continually improving our engagement.
So if I compare and contrast this slide with one that we had earlier, which had kind of the member, it had a picture of a phone, and it had a picture of the coach with a bunch of systems. This adds, you still have the member on the left, you've got multi-channel, you've got the phone, you've got chat, you've got email, and I know you're working to enable SMS through the same Marketing Cloud engine. So you've got kind of that multi-modality experience, the multi-engagement experience, driven by this front website, digital website, that really contains that container, and then Salesforce is really driving it all on the back end.
Yeah, what our consumers told us is they want to engage with us when they need us, not when we want to schedule with them. So that was the emphasis behind this, was making it flexible, allowing consumers to choose the modality, and being available and knowing the consumer when they want to talk to us.
And all of this is supported by multiple integrations into Optum systems, and I know that we both appreciate all of the technical team support in helping get the data in and out of Salesforce to make this solution really, really tick. The data and the underlying data model is really the structure that this solution sits on.
Yeah, the extensibility of, and again, the ability to pull data in, and the CRM concept where you organize data around the consumer so you can access it and know your consumer, is a powerful tool that we're using.
So I'm going to move ahead to a little bit of, as I was talking about, the compare and contrast of sort of current world, centered on the phone, to future. We've touched on a few of these points, but I think the image really pulls together, hopefully for the audience, to get a sense for what this omni-channel sort of experience for a member that's trying to go lose weight, manage their diabetes, improve their sleep, whatever that experience is for them, just got a whole lot more richer for how they interact with your teams.
Yeah, I think the real impact for us is if you look at the amount of time consumers got to spend with our coach. By the time you call, you spend time going through enrollment. The next time you call a coach, we had some information and some documentation that took up time. So you really get, 3 calls with a coach, and almost half of that time on those calls was spent around documentation. So if you look at the new world, we send people emails, or they're allowed to engage digitally or enroll on the portal. For those that are willing to do it, we send them information ahead of time so they know what's coming. They get to go online and watch some online curriculum taught by some amazing instructors. Then they get to spend their time on the phone just personalizing it with the coach and talking about their specific issues. We send them an automated summary slide of their next action steps, and we can track their progress toward it. We can send encouraging reminders or encouraging emails or appointment reminders, and let them continue to go back and get that education online. And then once they complete the program in a very automated way, we can stay in touch with them. And if they fall off track, we can reach back out. So if you look at the 2 programs, It's actually less expensive to run the program on the right, and it's a far richer consumer experience.
I think we've hit this point. So let's talk a little bit about that coach experience. We just talked about the member experience. Obviously, we're making it easier for them to do their jobs. They became health coaches to help people, not do documentation and navigate around from system to system. So with the integrated coaching platform, it's all coming down into a little bit of a one-stop shop. Do you have any other feedback on kind of what you're hearing from coaches and teams?
Yes, I'll give you 2 data points on this. I make it 3. So one is we reduced the time that the coaches spend, and their job became easier because we eliminated a lot of the tasks that they do. The second thing is the coaches were happier, so we do routinely measure employee satisfaction and engagement, and the coaches that were using this were more satisfied. And we also saw substantial improvements in NPS from our clients. So our clients that were talking to the coaches felt like their experience was better as well. So if you look from efficiency gain, we eliminated 72% of the tasks that the coaches do, and we think we improved the experience. We are attracting more clients because our program is more innovative, it's more digital, it's more available, it appeals to a wider range of people. And when clients engage with us, or more clients, more actual members choose to engage with us by a pretty substantial margin because they find the program more appealing.
So are we done?
Not even close, right? We're just getting started.
So with Salesforce, the multi-cloud solutions, we're leveraging a couple of the capabilities today. We're going to continue to roll out clients onto this platform and continue to build the richness that sits in the solution set. So talk to us a little bit about continued innovation and where you would like to see your solution go.
Yeah, so the more we know about our consumers, the more we bring data in through the IoT solution, it makes it easy to bring in large amounts of data, and then using artificial intelligence to make us smarter with how we use it. So you see in a lot of different industries, people are doing a very good job of leveraging that data to bring insights to their consumer to make their experience better. We think there's opportunity to do that through a whole host of ways, including matching coaches and consumers better, creating more seamless or more timely, more meaningful messaging to identify consumers that are likely to engage or want to engage more. So we have a lot of opportunity around the artificial intelligence and the analytics. But then we also want to become much more dynamic in our scheduling, create more flexibility, create efficiencies in the way we do it, and not just service people on the telephone, but we go on site and we even go to people's houses, right? So expanding those services out in a broader way where we can start to leverage, again, one scheduling modality across multiple systems so we can coordinate care and services in a more convenient way for our consumers.
So we can talk all day on these topics, and maybe that's for another webinar, but wanted to call out one thing. As a business leader, the same challenge that coaches have in terms of multiple systems and getting access to the getting access to the right information, so too does the leadership team need to get access to the right information to make the right calls about your business. I remember early on in some of our conversations, your vision around having visibility to anything, any choke points that are happening in your process, get visibility to that so you can make course corrections really quickly. And I think that we've started down that road with the foundation, but more of this analytics, visualization, artificial intelligence to be able to sense and respond and react quickly in your business.
Yeah, to be a real consumer-centric organization, we think we actually need to listen and hear what consumers say and change our process to adapt as soon as we learn something. So that's our objective, is to gain more visibility. How effective is this message? How effective is this call? How effective is this coach? And the more we learn, the more that we can correct either our messaging or enhance skills of our coaches and giving them real-time visibility, having standards to how they should perform, and having comparators to how they're performing against their peers or how certain messages perform against other messages, and just sit down and learn from it and continue to improve what we're doing.
So let's wrap up with a discussion around some of the key learnings, and you've provided some, and we've documented here. I was hoping your wisdom of the experience to date can shine through and maybe help some others on the phone that might be going through a similar journey or transformation. So would you just take a couple minutes to walk us through some of the learnings?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So, like I said, it was a complex process that we went through to implement, and I think things that ended up working out well for us was one is just having a clear vision of what we wanted to be. So it was a stance on how we're performing today, how we compare with the market, and what we think industry leading looks like. And then the second thing was to really be confident that our vision was industry leading and allow people to rally behind it. We do have an opportunity to go lead. And then one of the most key was just to come into the room with one opinion, not a bunch of them. So, a lot of people have opportunities to think why a strategy doesn't work, and we had an opinion, and that was the opinion, and anyone that had an opportunity to go get over that bar or make it better, not just point out what problems were. So to be very clear, this is where we're going. Any opinion that comes in that can make this better, we'll accept. Just pointing out criticism wasn't a productive path. To really know the business and what opportunities, what you're fixing. So we had a clear business problem. We did, black belt studies to figure out how much time was really there. We did consumer research to know what consumers really wanted. And we had a very sound business case on where we were going, and we got challenged often on that. So to be very clear on what the facts and what our business case was around it, and then having the right team. We were fortunate that we had some very talented people leading different parts of the organization that made those components really come to life and were critical. So those would be my 5 big learnings from going through this.
So most organizations and all leaders know that they're not going to be able to do it on their own. They have to go get the right buy-in from stakeholders across the organization, et cetera. On the right team perspective, give the folks a sense of the meld of team that you put together to make sure that this was successful. What roles did they play, and how did they come together for this work?
Yeah, it was truly a team effort, and we had a big team, but we had key leaders from technology, we had key leaders from marketing, we had key people from product, we had a whole operations group that sat around. We brought coaches in to design the experience. We brought our data architects in to talk about the best ways to manage data, and we asked each one of them to really challenge and come up with a better way to do it. So it wasn't how do we plug in, it's are we doing this as smart as we could do it, and we really wanted each one of them to come back with a big idea as how to change it to make it better in a less expensive way.
So one of the things we brought to the table was this agile methodology where we were running, after the initial design phase, we've been running 2-week sprints, and it's been nice to kind of get the Optum team and Magnet 360 team all sort of on the same path of delivery and methodology. Give us a few thoughts on what it was like working in that environment for your team, as well as just working with the Magnet team in general.
I feel like we were able to shape the product through the whole experience. So when we got out, everyone knew what they were getting and they knew how it worked. And we had worked through a lot of the bugs already. So I also think going through that process, trying to be disciplined and, do less custom work. So thinking about the longevity of the solution and how we're going to continue to evolve in the future, and again, trying to be more disciplined on how we're building. And I feel like the team, really got it and kind of rallied around those concepts and felt ownership and ultimately delivered a product that they felt was theirs, right? It was working to solve their problems and made their jobs easier and increased the satisfaction level that they're having with what they do every day.
All right, great. We're going to have some decent time for Q&A, and we'll get to some of the questions that are coming in, as well as answering any on the phone. I'm going to transition to Q&A with the opportunity to have anyone on the phone really think about if any of the bullets apply on here around, does your business need to be performing better? Do you need a vision? Do I need inspiration? Do I need better alignment? How do I start? You'll get a recording of or a link to the recording. There'll be a place to get more information after the webinar, but I also wanted to offer my contact information for anyone that wants to reach out directly. We'll have a conversation and assessment to see if any of the processes that we did with Optum and Matt's team might make sense for you and your organization. So with that, I think we can go to some Q&A.
Yep. Thank you, Jamie. Matt, the first question's for you. How did you manage transition from the old system to the new system? Were the coaches trained? Was it phased in?
So, yes, the coaches were trained. We have we're going to be managing transition over the next year still. So we have different clients, and then we have different consumers on it. So we phased the conversion. So there were two different components to it. All the coaches moved on the back-end Salesforce platform at one time, and then as the product, we're giving them access to the front-end learning over the course of the next year. So we did a pretty high level of training and education for the coaches to get them comfortable with the new system, but it's definitely a phased approach and a disciplined rollout.
Okay, great. And then how did you execute this without operational support? Someone in our audience stated that they only have one Salesforce contractor who serves many stakeholders. How can they leverage the need for additional support so either themselves or their coaches aren't spending time on maintenance of Salesforce?
I guess I'm not sure I understood the question. Could you say that one more time?
How do you execute this without operational support? They currently have one Salesforce contractor who serves many stakeholders.
But we do have operational support. We have our own Salesforce programmers that we leverage. So we brought Magnet in to do a lot of the strategic work and planning and help with the vision. Then they did a lot of the upfront build, and then they helped transition our team onto the product to be able to manage and iterate. And so our engagement with Magnet was a plan not only to build it, but then to transition operations over to our group.
That's great. Now for Jamie and Mike, obviously this person who's asking the question, is there a way of doing it without operational support within an organization?
Yes, there would be support. If we were in a Magnet relationship, when I talked about our managed capability, for clients that don't want to build a big support function, our project teams transition to a day-to-day support person that understands your business, that understands the Salesforce org, and continue to support you on an ongoing basis. It's a very simple pricing model where you kind of pay for play. There's not necessarily a minimum of hours expected, but it's that you have someone available to you on an ongoing basis to make sure that you're getting the support that you need.
Great. And a question for Mike. How do you work within a company's existing strategy to help them refine and innovate?
Well, we often have to take content and perspectives and points of view from our clients and really fold those into this process. It's pretty typical that there are perspectives, usually disjointed ones and often competing ones, that we're able to help them really align with a singularity of vision. That really it happens almost every time we engage, because of the nature of really what people want to do aspirationally with the Salesforce platform, right? There's a lot you can do with it, limited really only by your imagination and your budget. So, having to really fold those things together into a singular vision is what is a large part of what this is all about.
Great. Now, during the process, did you have to migrate systems to Salesforce, or is Salesforce at the center of the multiple systems when you went through the Optum transformation?
Yeah, we migrated over to a different system and then fed data back to our other products that remained on that system. So it was a new system for us.
And Matt, what were your main what have been your main obstacles through the transformation?
It depends on the phase, and I kind of, if you go through phases, right, selling and aligning people to the vision and getting support up front was a tremendous amount of work. Aligning and building the IT infrastructure that managed for the complexity of the organization that we had was another huge lift, and then just gaining alignment between all the different stakeholders that we're building and working on and touching the project. So with I think we integrated with 25 different systems, and we had different owners, and the complexity of just keeping all the work aligned and moving forward, and timing of the different integration points versus when the work could be done. So just managing the size and scope of that complexity was very challenging for us.
And when you go through this process, how long does it usually take for Jamie and Mike?
Well, from an upfront perspective, on the FastForward, we typically quote, from an accelerated, it could be 2 weeks up to 6 weeks is kind of a general time frame that allows us enough time to really get into the business model enough to come out with the good recommendations, just getting people's time on calendars, having the right workshops and meetings, synthesizing all that information and turning it around. So we typically like to say about 2 to 4 weeks up front. And then every new engagement begins with a phase that we call release planning, which is the first step of the implementation, where the project team is assembled and we are doing things like user story mapping, and we are identifying those key themes and requirements that need to get built into the solution. What comes out of it is a release plan that begins to lay out the building blocks of work across the number of 2-week sprints that we do in our agile delivery cycle. That release planning that I'm speaking of can go from 2 to 4 weeks. I think we did 4 weeks in Optum's case, just because of the scope, depth, and breadth of the size of this engagement. And then we went into series of 2-week build cycles. And a lot of that was based on the integrations that needed to happen. I think Matt will say, back me on this, that the configuration of Salesforce went much faster than getting the data available and into Salesforce and able to use.
For sure. Yep. Getting the data in and sending the the other system so they could accept it out was the bigger challenge.
So we had about an 8-month time frame to really get kind of phase one up, where coaches were actually on the system and converted over. We've continued on the roadmap of building out additional features and planning and bringing on additional clients. So that pattern will continue to go forward, as in some of the new innovations that Matt spoke about in that 2-week build cycle of, again, continuing to roll out to new clients, bringing on new functionality. I hope that answered the timing question. I tried to break it up into phases as well.
Yes, it did. Thank you. And actually, just going a little deeper with the coaches, Matt, what are the key metrics for measuring coaching performance or efficiency, and what have the gains been?
Yeah, so, the first one that we look at is cost per coaching call. So how much do we spend, and it's across our whole book versus the number of calls. And, we've taken the overall cost in about half of our coaching calls, and a lot of that came from, like I said, the 72% reduction in programs. Then the other one you look at is the number of people that are willing to engage. We were up by about 20% of consumers that wanted to engage in the program. And then if you look at program completion, so of those that start the program, how many get through the program, and those were still firming up metrics on that. We expect some pretty significant gains. I don't have the firm data out. That's a little bit more of a delayed metric, and we're trying to grab 6 months, but I would expect it would be in that 30 to 40% of more consumers are completing the program than they did in the past.
Okay, great. And could you perhaps elaborate on how you visualize the roadmap to bring it to life?
I'll let Matt add on. We took 2 cuts at it. We had a capability roadmap, which said, sort of independent of time, what are the key functions that need to get developed, and what are the dependencies from one phase to another to go build that out. So we looked at member engagement, as a major theme, and what are the steps that we had to do, starting with enabling Marketing Cloud and connecting it with Service Cloud, and then building on campaigns and content and building out those messages. There was a stream there. There was a stream around the coach experience and then the console. There was a data integration roadmap. So we have a couple of different ways that we visualized the migration of the capability. And then, like you might expect, we've got our timeline slides based on feature functions as well, showing especially Optum's leadership team when certain milestones would be hit and when we would deliver key phases of the work. Anything to add on that one?
No, I think you got it.
All right.
All right. Well, I would like to thank our attendees for joining us today for our webinar. If you should have any additional questions or would like any information, please feel free to reach out to Jamie, whose contact information is up right now. I would also like to thank our other 2 speakers, Matt and Mike, for their insights on how an organization can take manual processes and automate them. As it was stated earlier in the webinar, we will be sending everyone a recorded copy of the webinar and the slide deck early next week. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.